legal work for us right now, trying to craft some language. That's what I'm saying. You know, I mean, it's pro bono stuff. If we're not paying them, I can't really tell them where's it at. I mean, you don't really tap your foot when someone's helping you for free.
We've had a couple follow-up meetings to clarify what they're doing. Originally, they thought they needed to pull them away. Now they know they're working on the paragraph section. So we're making progress at it. It's been better defined for the legal that's working on it, but we don't have it yet.
There are fundamental questions if the liability resides with the employer that's sending the nurse, or whether the liability resides on the agent, on the hospital where they're going. And even in this room, I will tell you that we're diametrically opposed in this room right now about to it, because I'll just leave it at that.
And we have leadership from like the HCAs, dentists, those sorts of people.
Okay, so good report. Anybody have any questions for Victor? It's outstanding work. EMTF coordinators in the room, raise your hand. Five. Okay. Thank you guys as well. Cindy, good job. Okay. Frank, will you introduce these guys?
I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Come on up.
They do a much better job.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to be here to brief you on ambulance operations, or the AMOPS response plan. I'm David Conley, and this is Emily Yanas. We're regional planners at MCHD, Montgomery County Hospital District. Although Montgomery County is a sub-grantee, we are working under the Regional Catastrophic Preparedness Initiative. So AMOPS is the coordinated activation, notification, and mobilization for a no-notice mass casualty incident in the Houston-Galveston region. RCPI, what is RCPI? Well, it's a DHS FEMA preparedness catastrophic grant that was awarded to 10 cities based on the vulnerability, its access to a port or waterway, and its population size. In 2008, a working group convened in the greater Houston area composed of more than 100 local, state, and federal participants, nonprofit, private, multidisciplinary working group. And they conducted a risk assessment. And out of that risk assessment, they found that the greater Houston area was vulnerable and susceptible to pandemic influenza, a major hurricane, and a multi-staged prong improvised explosive device, multi-stage attack or terrorist incident. A gap analysis was performed and found that just from the medical side, we didn't have the capacity to respond. So out of this analysis, 5 support plans were drafted. So typically, you've got your forecasted events, your wildfires, your hurricanes, and your tornadoes, and for the most part, they are forecasted. However, these could be no-notice incidents, although you're dealing with a different trauma set, say compared to your Oklahoma City bombing, 9/11, or your Reno air crash. So just to give you an idea of the region that we're working in, the HCAC region, there's more than 167 municipalities, more than 6 million people, and 2 RACs, a total of 13 counties. Now, our geographical footprint doesn't include RAC H. However, looking at it on a map, if you were to include RAC H, you essentially would be looking at the EMTF 6 footprint. So our planning partners consisted of both RACs, CETRAC and the East Texas Gulf Coast Trauma Advisory Council. Our scenario revolved around the Houston Fire Department, and we included Medical Operations Center and various planners across the region. And we reached out to more than 70 local fire and EMS agencies to work this scenario. Now, our specific scenario, as you'll see here, I won't get too bogged down in the details, but this is your doomsday scenario, 5 separate incidents. But what I want to concentrate on is at the bottom of the screen, the number of fatalities. We've got more than 114 fatalities and 1,068 red and yellow or immediate and delayed patients with more than 4,700 walking wounded. And these 5 incidents take place in the city of Houston within a geographical region of 2 miles, affecting logistics of the hospitals, local fire, EMS, and law enforcement. Our plan, based on and revised from the city of Houston, their fire department triage categories, is addressing this 1,068 red and yellow or immediate delayed patients. Based on that gap analysis and further speaking with the Houston Fire Department, they've worked out that they have a capacity to respond to 150 red and yellow or immediate delayed patients on the ground. However, we built this plan around the scenario of more than 1,000 patients, but it is definitely scalable and flexible, so could be adapted to fit the rural county bus crash.
Good morning. I'm a preacher's daughter, so please don't hold that against me. But the way that I understand everything is in 3 points, like the 3-point sermons. So, when I came onto the planning project, I was kind of trying to help pull the plan together. And I just want to say I had the easiest job in the world because there was a lot of groundwork laid that took over a year of planning. Wade Sullivan's a great paramedic or EMS background in our county. Michael Lambert, which is back there, and I'm going to call him out and point to him. He helped everybody with the oxygen issue a few years ago. He was instrumental in getting this project started too. So David and I came in a little bit later and just got to tie up a lot of the loose ends and kind of make everything flow together. So I just really want to thank Michael and Wade and all the work that they did. So back to the 3 points of MOPS. When I try to explain what this is about, it's really, I think the way that David Conley likes to describe it is mutual aid on steroids. Frank Marshall up there likes to say this is launching ambulances into space. So that's why we have the pretty arrow, just to get a visual. But it's really a 3-pronged approach. It's activation, notification, and mobilization. So what does that mean exactly? Activation happens at the incident site. The first EMS agency that shows up, or fire agency, whoever's responding, is the one that really determines, wow, this is really bad. We can't deal with this. Even our buddies next door that usually help us out can't deal with it with us. This is beyond what our mutual aid and individual agency can take care of. So one way to put it is MOPS activation happens when you're one asset beyond what you have with your normal channels. So that happens at the scene. We kind of call for help. That's where the SOS comes from. That call goes to the Regional Communications Center, which we probably would have at Cypress Creek EMS, which is a good dispatch center in northern Harris County in our region. The notification goes out from there. And that's basically when everybody in the region, in the 13 counties and whatever's necessary for the incident, gets a ping to know, hey, this is really bad, this is what's happened. There's kind of an initial report that this is what's happening on scene. That's pretty much situational awareness for everyone, and they may or may not need to act on it. It's just sort of a standby. And at that point, once people are notified, the agencies throughout the region can respond and say, okay, we can come. This is what we can send to the incident. And then once as more intelligence comes in, we can tailor that notification to say, okay, we need ambulances. How many can you send? We need an ambus. Who can send it? And then the agencies actually have an opportunity to use the polling feature of our notification system to say what they can contribute to the response. Mobilization is when those agencies throughout the region actually get their wheels running and move toward the response. We call this mobilization and not deployment. And yes, for all you ICS purists, we did talk about this a lot, and I even asked Sharon Knowles over there since she's an EMC expert. See, I have to talk about people when they're here, right? So we went with mobilization and not deployment because MOPS really ends whenever we get to the incident scene. We send people, they go to incident command, and then incident command takes over. So we're not actually deploying them to the field, we're getting them there, and then once they get to the scene, it's an incident command's job to deal with them. So at that point, they'll be in the command structure. They may work with a medical operations center that's set up at that time. It's really up to incident command what happens. Now with the Houston scenario, as David shared, we're talking about doomsday, terrible scenario. At that point, we know that we're dealing with a large-scale incident, and the CMOC, which is our medical operations center, would be set up. There's a smaller event in Waller County, in a rural area. We may activate MOPS without having the whole entire region involved. So in that case, there may not be a medical operations structure, a formal one in place with the CMOC and all that entails. The incident command may decide to say, okay, MOPS, you're already working, can you just go ahead and run ambulance staging for us? Most of the people that work on ambulance operations are qualified to do other tasks. So even though this plan doesn't necessarily deal with the rest of that function, it could be expanded if necessary. But again, that's up to the incident command. So this is, again, just trying to explain exactly what MOPS is. I think, as we mentioned earlier, sometimes you have to explain what something isn't to explain what it is. We're strictly dealing with the activation, notification, mobilization piece. And then the rest of that, the staging, transport, pickup, all those air med protocols and everything like that, a lot of that's coordinated by the CMOC under incident command. It may be done into in that medical operations structure, and we're not really trying to replace or have anything to do with that function. We're just a support to get people there immediately. A medical operations center can't be set up immediately, so we're really focused on the immediate response. Again, immediate coordinated regional response is the crux of what AMOPS is. So we really want to start right now. There are all kinds of response agencies that take a couple hours to get going. We really want to start in seconds and minutes. So we're showing some of the different regional assets that are available that could be involved with AMOPS. I appreciated having the opportunity to hear the EMTF discussion that just happened because we were talking about how EMTF is a pretty standard package. MOPS isn't quite that organized. The different regions within our region have different assets, so they may or may not have the same assets to provide to a response. So here's the MOPS command structure, and again, we say command structure just to understand it. It doesn't in any way mean that we're trying to replace or compete with the incident command structure or unified command. The MOPS chief is the first person called. Basically, the person on the scene calls the regional communications center and says, I need help. The regional communications center has in our Everbridge system, which is our mass notification system, a pre-populated list of people who could really run the MOPS operation and say, can you help? At this point, when the chief is chosen, he or she can kind of decide how we mobilize who goes where and when. We put RCVQ there. That's actually a regional communications vehicle. Some of you might have seen it at some state conferences. It's really set up to be like an incident command post that can be mobile. So it can do just about everything that an EOC can do, but it's on wheels. So the MOPS chief may choose to work out of that or recliner chair at the beginning, honestly, if the response is happening at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday night. So the MOPS chief, again, this is scalable and flexible. That may be the only position that's ever filled, but as needed, the chief can name some other people to do a communications liaison would work in that regional communications center, providing support to actually getting the messaging out. The scene liaison is a senior EMS person that could work at the incident site. The EOC really acts as the intelligence to kind of to let MOPS know what's going on scene. The dispatch specialist is the person who keeps all of the communications going for the MOPS function. This is not necessarily for the incident, but this is someone who works in RCVQ that can help with all of the radio and internet and communications, because we all know that sometimes we have radio problems and people talking to each other. I'm sure that doesn't happen in any other region.
It's only you.
It does in ours.
Perfect everywhere else.
So, documentation specialist is the one that everybody counts on to tell them what happened when and keeps track of everything in WebEOC and those 213 forms and all those pesky little details no one wants to talk about until it's time to get paid back. We mentioned EMTF here, and I think we might have the right map because it looks like the one I saw earlier. To show the EMTF footprint, and again, we in our region are in EMTF 6, racks R, Q, and H. Again, our AMOPS footprint, because we went with the HGAC footprint, only includes Q and R, but we could also expand as needed to include H. Just to kind of do a compare and contrast to why AMOPS and EMTF aren't the same thing, again, there are a lot of similarities, but ours is, and I won't read the table to you, we can give the presentation to you if you'd like it, but AMOPS is really focused on within the region. So our region's a pretty large size. Some of the other regions in Texas are as well. The resources that we have in an EMTF capacity would probably not be deployed in Houston to an incident. They would go outside of the area. So at AMOPS, we're really taking care of ourselves first.
How many more slides do you have? Because I want to stay here. How many more slides do you have after this?
3 maybe?
Okay.
Yeah, we're almost done. Okay. Delayed activation, EMTF's a little bit of a delayed activation because.
We're gonna get into
you gotta
this, go to the next, I just wanna finish up, and
All
come
right.
back to this.
All right, this is a
Finish up.
mutual aid agreement that they're doing in Houston to try to work out reimbursement so that you don't get penalized by FEMA for helping your neighbor. Again, that's out of the scope of our plan. We divide people up into task forces. Again, they're not strike teams because they do include ambulance strike teams, but they may have other assets. Some of them have several agencies, and some of them have just Houston, which is the big one. So if you're in a task force, that's because you can have at least 5 ambulances and a supervisor. So that's David's picture because it's a big,
Go back.
yeah.
Okay, so, first of all, so you two and Michael and everybody else, Wade, that's worked on this project need to be, you should be very, very proud and impressed. And the Houston area, RACS, Q&R should be very impressed with this. This should be the model. I think everything you've done is very good. We're on this, no, go back.
The table.
Oh,
Okay, so here's where, do you remember earlier I said we've been moving really fast for a couple of years, right? We've been moving so fast, blazingly fast, that I think we lost sight, we didn't even have good definitions. We're still today, right? You heard us today trying to define this thing. So it's a brand new project, very well funded, and everything you've said, in my mind, is EMTF, what the EMTF people have been supposed to do. Victor? Everything you described today happens in my region almost exactly like you said it. We would use our STRAC personnel, me and Joe and a few others in that slot of that AMOPS chief role, and we use some of our task force leaders. And we're still a little fuzzy on that, but that same thing happens. Call comes in, call those head guys, they figure out what the package looks like. That table you had, the EMTF strike teams and your task forces they are the same thing for us. There is a misconception in EMTF 6's area, and I'm curious if it's in other places. EMTF was designed to be and. Everything you do is what we were trying to structure and do. You did it in parallel, you did it extremely well. We're kind of the country version of yours. Like, we've done everything you're doing, just doesn't have like cool slidey things. So, but I seriously want us to talk about this because that whole left side, response outside the region is yes, response inside the region. What we call regional mutual aid should be yes, yes. In other words, and I don't want to, I'm not going to try to, I just want everybody else in the room, EMTFs, all the other EMTFs in the room, this is what your regional component should look like. Okay? If you missed that slide some long time ago about your regional and statewide deploy capable, come see me, but this is, you need to get her slides and take them back, and your slides, not just hers, and take them back to your EMTF meetings at your next EMS meeting at the RAC. This is what I had envisioned as part of the regional EMTF response for ambulances. This is exactly what we wanted. It's incredible work. I'm very impressed. But I want to go through the delayed activation. We have immediate activation. Dudley, wait, are you still here?
Yeah. I want to be still after.
But Hondo, Texas is 40 miles due west on Highway 90. Hondo, Texas has a 2-bus wreck. What happens, Dudley?
They start calling all their neighbors and they call MedCom.
When MedCom gets called, what happens, Dudley?
We issue a first alarm assignment consisting of an ambulance and at least one strike team unless they ask for more.
And an MCI trailer.
Oh, yeah, MCI.
We have an MCI regular alarm.
So that's local AMOPS.
That's part of EMTF. The EMTF strike team, whatever Dudley is, the Northeast strike team, they're going to call the strike team leaders and say, can you go? And all of the EMTF, when they're signing up their ambulances, they say, we will punch out a truck that's, ooh. And so my, so we will punch out an on-duty truck that's in the bay. They're welcome to backfill that truck if they want, but there is a 911 call. It is it's go now. And every ambulance agency that signs up knows that's what this means when they sign up. I will put one or I will put 2 trucks into that strike team. Means it's just like going to a wreck 4 blocks away, or I'm going to Hondo. It's the same thing. What happens when I call and say Pantex blew up, Dudley, and you've got a deployment to Amarillo?
I don't know. Oh,
Make it something you're not scared of.
I'm saying shirts and watch.
Same trucks, same process. They just tell them, hey, you have 2 hours to get stood up because you're going to be gone for up to 72 hours, and you need to pack a bag. Same trucks, same guys, same ASTLs, same process. Different payer now.
Yep.
Who gets paid when you go to Hondo, Dudley?
Nobody.
What do you mean who gets paid? We get paid if their insurance pays.
It's just like a call. Okay. There's no promise of reimbursement on that side for our regional component of EMTF. There is reimbursement to make you whole from DSHS if you're deployed as a state asset. The reason this is so important, and you guys have solved this kind of for us and given us, I think, the template. Frankly, I'm going to tell you, if you're willing, we would ask that we can use this as the template for the state for people to modify if you're willing to share your work. I don't think it's rocket surgery. I just think it's pretty good to give people an idea how it works. And I think every region needs to do this. Every EMTF region should have a plan for this is your regional SOG.
Eric, I think there's a few things that I would recommend we look at before it becomes the template. So as Emily, you know, and you probably don't know, I was one of the medical operations chiefs for the CMOC many, many times. And so I would ask you to look at the plan, and the name in and of itself, AMOPS, lends itself to operations. It does not lend itself to stopping at mobilization. And so the idea behind we only go through mobilization and we hand off to operations by virtue of calling it AMOPS and by virtue of having the operations chief, your RCVQ chief, those don't align to me. So I think the template is good. I would challenge that you don't stop at just mobilization. The notification and mobilization are an entry point into that circle, but you don't really stop. And I think that lends itself back to EMTF and the idea that EMTF was statewide assets that could be deployed across the state, but also were available within the region as your regional mutual aid. I think the other component that you have to look at is, as we talked about earlier with DSHS rolling out the state contracts between the region, and then the region having regional contracts with the agencies as the part of that tiered operation, that in and of itself puts the region in the middle of operations, fiscal liability, things like that. So if you're contacting the regional communications center to get regional assets, the region is involved operationally at that point. Somebody made that decision to send out the tones, right? Or turn off the lights. Lights would be good. So my point there is that by virtue of having that regional or communication center, by virtue of having the mutual aid agreements in place, you are operations. This is a part of operations, and you need to look, I would suggest that we look at that as a part of being inclusive in the overall operations plan, not being a entry point, I don't know what else you call it, that arrow that you had into the circle.
So let's do this. If you're willing to share the work, I think all of you have just been nodding you are. The next section, I'd like to delve into what he's talking about. If this works in Houston, I love this. So in other words, I don't have as intimate knowledge as Doug does about it, but frankly, you guys have been planning and working and having a bunch of meetings without, the two of us as geniuses. I don't care. I mean, I care
haven't been
deeply.
there in a while, so.
I don't, if it works right now and this has had thumbs up, I'm fine with how you hand off and who runs I would like to talk about it from a model. Mm-hmm. If we're going to take this to Dallas or Houston, and then to your discussion is, I think it's a big, one of the questions I wrote down was, is the command structure capable and ready? I mean, if I told our medical branch at a big problem in San Antonio that they're getting 75 or 100 trucks, that's a new and spectacular staging Chief Granado and her medical shift commanders are here. I mean, that they would expect, this is no different than us sending 75 or 100 trucks to the valley and saying, Merry Christmas, here you go. So I think that there's some level of babysitting, of maintenance of that. And the ambulance strike team leaders will help with some of that, but the next level up as well, we probably, from a model, not your plan, right, but from a model perspective, need to discuss that. I'd prefer, frankly, for us not to talk about it. I'd like to take it to Anywhere Texas when we do it, just to avoid any appearance that that's what we're doing. So we'll discuss it from a theoretical perspective and have our other EMS colleagues do that. Go ahead, Frank.
I was gonna say, we're actually in the red team process of this
Right,
project
yeah.
right now, so we're at a good point to accept feedback on the plan, and be able to make some modifications to it before we finalize the plan and move into the training and exercise phase, which is only months away. So-
One thing we failed to point out, this is from a draft. We actually gave the draft out to our pre-hospital care and transport committee January 20th, and we asked for their feedback by February 20th, just because that's the grant cycle. We're trying to wrap everything up, the planning phase by the end of the month. So we've got electronic versions of it. We even have a couple CDs today if anybody's interested in looking at it. We are open to any and all feedback.
I have a bunch of feedback for this table.
Right. Well,
I may
good,
not-
good. That's
so-
part of the reason why we wanted to come too while we're
Good.
still in draft form, so that we can get the feedback we need to make sure. There's no use to write I mean, you can have a beautiful plan with beautiful diagrams in it, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't make sense.
If
So-
you'd like feedback from members of this committee, I'd be happy to review it for you.
But you're so shy, Doug. You just don't tell us what you think.
Absolutely.
No, you're.
Anybody in the audience have any questions for this right now? We're close. What we have 7 minutes? Okay, well, I got the big giant. They count it down and yell at me. Look at that thing, man. That's scary. All right, very good job. Extremely, this is strong work. Strong work.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Questions from the audience? Okay, all right.
Good job.
You know, we're thanking you guys, but the reality is there's a bunch of EMS providers in the Houston-Galveston area that have come together to do this. This doesn't happen with some planners. This happens with EMS chiefs and directors who want to get something done, and that's clear and apparent. They came together and worked well together. So, all right, on this agenda, so Mitch is going to do the thing. We'll kind of get. We do TDMS right now. That's perfect. Can you do it in 7 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do it too.
Do you have slides? No, that's even better. I mean, that's not better.
All righty. I'm just going to give kind of an update of where we are with TDMS. We have finally finished the overview strategic document of TDMS. Yay! We're having a meeting tomorrow and are going to be talking about how actually to disseminate that to everybody, but the thing is finally done and I couldn't be happier. We actually have 9 incident scenarios as appendices, kind of tying everything together. We talk about kind of the concept of MOX and how it will work within the state plan. And so everybody, once we get that disseminated out, it's either going to be through DSHS or through STRAC. It'll be on the TDMS website, and everybody can take a look at that. Please provide feedback. This is a living document, and we'll be revisiting it quite often, so we want to hear everybody's feedback on that. The resource typing group continues to work on typing our resources and teams throughout the state. That, hopefully, document will be coming out fairly soon. We are, as Eric already talked about, we have an RN Strike Team subcommittee that was formed last meeting. It's going to be headed by Denise Rose to look at the problems, issues, liability, all of the stumbling stones that we have with the RNs, with getting the RN Strike Teams together. So thank you to Denise for volunteering to head that up. And then the big thing that we are concentrating on right now is actually a 3-tiered training system or educational system for how are we going to get the information out to people across the state on what TDMS is, ESF8, all of the resources available, how everything works together, basically how public health and acute medical care are being pulled together in the state. Our education subcommittee has come up with a brilliant plan of triple tiers of basically basic information. Joe, do you want to help me out here because I'm blanking. We're going to have awareness, thank you, awareness, operational and technical level, similar to how we do with hazmat training. And we're going to actually be rolling out our 3-tiered training system at the Emergency Management Conference the first week of April. So we're actually going to kind of have our own track with all that, and basically starting at the awareness level and moving all the way through technical level for those who are interested in participating intimately in TDMS and the disaster process. And so that's where we are. I think that everybody's very excited about this new educational training system, and I anticipate that that's really what we're going to be concentrating on and taking the information out all across the regions of the state this year. Rick, do you have anything else to add? Any questions?
Sorry.
Oh, also, let me just, we have several vacancies on the steering committee. One of the things we're going to be discussing tomorrow is how to fill the vacancies. So anybody who's interested in participating on the TDMS steering committee, please let us know. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow.
Any other questions from the committee, or? So we're going to lose, we're 2 minutes away, 3 minutes away now. We're going to kind of tie this up because I don't think there's another agenda item we can kill. I just like to do some quick straw polls. Are we, in general, on the right track with this committee? Raise your hand if you think so. Okay. You guys need to raise your dang hands. You're on the committee.
Or make a motion, one or the other.
Yeah. What are we, so we've talked a lot about EMTF, ambulance response, field hospitals, the Texas Disaster Medical System and structure, educational components to build core competencies. What are we missing that you think is going to kill us, is going to hurt us?
Coordination with the district coordinators.
Coordination with our TDM district coordinators, so they're aware of what is available, that kind of stuff.
The question came up Monday when Brandon came down to Victoria.
Is this the one you said it? We need to give this presentation that Victor gave to the DDCs, the DCs, the majors, and the commanders. So he wrote that in the middle of your presentation. So we're going to tie that loose end up. Popoff just had a meeting the other day, and some of the EMTFs went and did that. I think this Victor, that presentation you just did a little while ago sums it up pretty well. I think that should become the canned. We need to put that together with talking points. That's a due out for you with the EMTF coordinators and task force leaders. The more we start, by the way, I'm going to encourage all the task force leaders. If you're a task force leader in your area, you need to start being the face of your EMTF. The coordinators, in many ways, are the radar. I've said this a lot. They hate this. The radar O'Reilly of the command. I mean, they're not Hawkeye and Pierce and those guys. We need the task force leaders who are EMS battalion chiefs, directors, people who instantly, Ricky is a task force leader for EMTF too, right, Ricky? So Ricky needs to be doing that briefing if he can, because it starts to tie together the operational command faces with those district coordinators, regional commanders, state coordinators, etc. I feel strongly about that. We've hired some really great EMTF coordinators, by the way. I mean, Steve Surface was an assistant chief at El Paso Fire, retired El Paso Fire assistant chief. He probably has the ability to run this and be a task force leader extraordinaire. That's not the job he's in today, right? So, but my point is we all have to play the role we're dealt at the time that we have the meetings. And so the more we put the task force leaders in touch with these state efforts, I think that'll be good. Anything else we're missing that we think we have a gap, people don't, that we're pan flu, I mean, anything? Are we addressing your needs in the audience? Is the committee addressing your needs? That's a raise your hand if we're addressing your needs.
Eric, I think everybody needs.
One person raised their hand, that's bad. Seriously, let's vote again?
What are the needs?
What are the needs then? I just said, what are we missing? And y'all didn't say anything, but we're not addressing your needs? I'm mad now. Go ahead, what?
I think everybody needs to take the EMTF concept and play it in all the scenarios. Don't think about it just being in a hurricane or a tornado. They need to look at the pandemic. They need to look at all the other things that could impact a local area, a region, or a state, and use the resources, because we kind of get tunneled in, and we need to think about everything because it's out there.
What other needs are we not meet? What are we not doing then? If you don't think we're meeting your needs, can we vote again? Do we feel like the committee is meeting your needs? The efforts we're doing are meeting your needs for disaster preparedness and emergency health care? Yes or no? Yes, raise your hand. Oh, that's better. Y'all just didn't know we were voting. They just want to go. They want me to adjourn or recess.
Recess.
I love recess.
Recess.
Okay, Christine.
My only concern with it is that when we do this pop-off meeting, some of us have to stay for the GETAC meeting, and so we miss out on the whole rest of this meeting. Like, for my region, I've got to go to the next committee meeting because I'm the one here to represent my region, but I can't be in two places.
It is somewhat problematic that we recess and continue, and then we have TDMS tomorrow, and which means that we miss chunks of GTAC.
Laying disaster committee and TDMS on top of GTAC, not next to it, is a problem. Okay? We'll figure that out. We've actually tried to do it to save on travel and things, but at the same time, it does kind of screw things up. We could meet from like 5 p.m. till 2 a.m.
You know, maybe if you're the 9 o'clock slot, maybe we might just push it to 8 o'clock, and we go 8
What?
to 10:30.
Wow.
We're here anyway.
The reason we had the 9 o'clock slot was for people like Sharon, who's not going to stay for the whole thing. We used to meet from like 4 to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, right? And then this morning was just the 90-minute wrap up, and then people who are not involved in the rest of GTAC. So that was the rationale for the 9 o'clock slot on Wednesday morning. It was the most hated slot among the GTAC committee chairs, by the way. I got it. They're like, you're welcome. Here it is. They gave it to me gladly. But it helps people who need to leave. And so we were trying to do a night before, and we haven't done that night before in a while, and maybe we should get back to that for your point.
It really is just a scheduling nightmare. The night before, TTAB takes it, tonight, Rec Chairs takes it, so it's very it's difficult. It's just hard.
We'll work in the next meeting. We are going to recess now. I'm getting the cut sign from Maxie. So we're going to recess now. We're going one room that way, please, and recess. Yay.
Eric, the other group, you want to talk to me a little bit? I'll knock on the door. You go out the door, you can come back in. If anybody steps out, take a phone call. I had to walk all the way back.